The Isle of Man Police Dog Unit have been showing off their latest recruits to keep law and order, not only in the island, but also in Cumbria soon. So the Children's Centre are raising funds, and they've come up with the idea to send some MHKs down a rope here at the Strand Shopping Centre. We've got a few of them here already. So once again, some seals that have washed up on the Manx coastline in the Isle of Man have been put here into the MSPCA during the winter so they can be fed up and then returned to the wild. Well, this is a site well known to everyone on the Isle of Man. It's a car park at present opposite the old bus station. But artist impressions have been released of what might be on this site in just a few years' time. It was announced today that Glenside, the residential home here on Victoria Road, is to close within the next 2 years. It was originally intended to mark the Isle of Man's association with the sea, and plans were drawn up in 2009 to the planning department for a fiberglass model of a seagull to be erected here on Douglas Promenade. Mr. Shimmons, you've announced that you're going to be rebranding in the Isle of Man, and there's going to be less of the RBSI logo. Exactly what's happening?
It only affects our personal customers that are in the RBS International brand, and we're migrating them to the NatWest brand.
As you can see from the amount of defects on the list there, we've tried to cover a very broad range of different defects, which members of the public might see, they might get a bit annoyed about, and it's not the fact that the department's not doing anything, it might be just the fact that the department doesn't actually know it exists or that there's a problem there.
Mr. Shimon, you've announced that there has been actually quite a lot of interest in a second casino licence for the Isle of Man.
Well, there's a question in the House of Keys. The answer is that we've had 7 expressions of interest. We're now pursuing further inquiries with those 7 to see how viable they are as projects to maybe move forward.
Well, as the ramifications of the closure of not just the preschool but also of the mobile library service takes effect, we've come to this school to find out how some school children have taken it upon themselves to make their voices known that they're against the cuts. Well, can you tell us about what your plans are for the Castlemona Hotel?
Well, what we're hoping to do is to turn it into an ICT university to support both local and students from the UK, to give them real vocational experience and hopefully something rewarding on the Isle of Man.
Mr. Butt, it's the end of an era. This is the last week that your papers will be printed on the Isle of Man.
Yes, I'm afraid so, but the company made a decision that we had to go with the move of the times and go for an all-colour printing product and to improve the quality of the newspapers. And we looked very hard at whether we could do that with the existing press or to buy a new press, and we couldn't make the sums add up to actually continue printing the Isle of Man. So we're now going to a new £60 million press in England where we're going to be printing all 3 of our titles from next week onwards.
Well, we do need to make a saving of £600,000 from the police this year. That isn't going to be easy.
It's another Tuesday outside Timbledon House of Keys and another demonstration. This one is against the closure of Glenside that's due to shut in 2 years' time.
The budget implications for the Fire and Rescue Service for the forthcoming year, which is 2012-2013, will be a reduction of £221,200.
We're down here at the sea terminal. It's coming around to 3:30 in the afternoon, and we're greeting the passengers who left Douglas this morning at 8 o'clock heading towards Birkenhead. It appears that the 240 passengers were then informed about 15 miles away from their final destination that there was a problem with one of the engines. The steam packet turned the vessel around and was brought back in here to the harbour using a tugboat.
We've had cuts for the last 3 years, and we've been cutting and cutting, having made sure that the radio station was commercially run professionally and efficiently. And the Treasury, all the officials that deal with us know, and they examine all the figures. We're probably more examined than any department in government.
Well, we're taking a trip up Snave Fell this morning to have a look at how the work is going. As you know, over the last 2 years, £3 million has been spent on the operation to upgrade the rails and also the whole infrastructure. Do you listen to people? Do you actually take account of what people here will be saying today?
Absolutely. If we didn't, Flybe would not have been in existence for 30 years.
We, like everybody else, I think, not only in football but throughout the world, we're just shocked by seeing events unfold in front of our eyes.
Well, this is Park Road, and many people know this, of course, the gym. All this will be closing down soon, of course, and today many old pupils have come back to have one more look round before the place is closed down.
This is the first time an event of this type has ever been attempted, so we really have no precedent to go by, so we don't really know how it will turn out in terms of the attendance or indeed the input from the audience when it gets underway.
We had very little forewarning that the announcement was coming today, and I think it's very, very disappointing that the bank chose the day before the Easter holiday to make the announcement to the staff.
So the walk out to the Tower of Refuge is underway, and as you can see, hundreds upon hundreds of people have turned out for this event.
First ever Real Ale Festival on the island. We have over 60 beers from 5 nations and 6th and 7th nations of heaven, and this Neptune is the 7th nation. We have ciders and perries, huge range of beers, some which may be familiar, others which are going to be brand new.
Well, I've come here to Mackle to a fairly secret location because behind this door is a laboratory that is making equipment that can detect earthquakes anywhere in the world. As you know, over the last 48 hours there's been many of them, and they've all been picked up on special machinery that's been built and actually made in the Isle of Man. Well, today we're off to Oxford. This is a new service that's being run by Manx 2 that's starting in May. Today the press and some dignitaries have been taken on a trip around the city to see what's on offer. And of course this is the place where everyone will be coming to in just over a week's time. Everyone being 3,500 people wanting to watch this FA Intercup final between the Isle of Man and Jersey.
Now, there's a long-standing rule going back many, many years for members of departments that this debate on policy development can be as fierce and partisan as they like behind closed doors. But once the decision has been taken as to what the way forward should be, it is expected that those members then will fall in behind the minister.
It was a loss-making venture for a long time. When I was parachuted in with Eddie Tier 5 years ago, we soon discovered that when our complete review of the operations.
So it's appalling conditions for Ben's final cycle around the TT course. We're up here at the grandstand waiting for him to cross the line, but I can tell you, it's windy, it's cold, it's raining, it's everything, but we hope he's going to do well.
Specific headline is that we see a shortened programme with a programme of 3 classic races, pretty much along the existing races that we currently have in the classic setup. But in order to accommodate the wishes and the input that we had from the Manx Motorcycle Club and others, that we've complemented those with 2 what we're calling Clubman's TT races.
Well, if you've been travelling around the Isle of Man over the last week, you might have seen a slightly unusual sight. Mike here is taking his cross around the Isle of Man, and he's now going to tell us why.
Yeah, okay. Well, mainly because the message that comes with the cross is a message of hope, and hope is something I think everybody needs.
So the new footbridge is officially getting open today, ahead of the new school in Oncombe, which starts its school term in September. Well, the news tonight coming from the Liberal Vannon Party, their chairman, Roy Redmayne, has given the information to the media that Zach Hall has had his membership of the party revoked. Well, we've had a great opportunity today to come along to the British Hotel here on North Quay. It's closed at the moment, it's being refurbished. We're up here at Manx Radio on Douglas Head. It's a historic moment really, a new radio station's about to be born in about 10 minutes time. It's Manx Radio TT 365.
Clearly today is potentially an important day. And perhaps even more important is the executive of the club tomorrow is meeting with the minister and the political members of the department to further discuss the whole thing.
What a bit of history in the making down here in Port St Mary. As literally as we are doing this interview, they're making the final alterations to putting in this anchor that's being brought all the way back to the Isle of Man. It's a great story. Well, this is Duke Street, and this is the testing area for making the whole of Douglas a chewing gum free area. The noise you can hear in the background is the machinery that does that, and today there's a big press launch of keeping the Douglas area particularly tidy. Well, this is Groudle Glen, and we've come down here for a very special celebration as it's 30 years since all the enthusiasts got together to get the railway back in action.